Hello, we're back. I'm trying something different today because it's February 2021 and we're in the middle of a lockdown, so it's difficult to get out and do a whole lot. And anyway, so what I'm doing this time, it's more of a going through all my old photographs that I have, and I'm trying to put a montage together to maybe try and inspire people, young people mostly, to just get out and do things. Don't worry about it. But anyway, I'm going to kick off, and this is just photographs that I found of all the sporting activities that I've done throughout my life so far. Alright, so we kick it off 60 years ago, which is scary, when I found my first bike. Hope you enjoy it. We'll skip through all the schooling years because that's just brings memories of pain, and catching the bus to school, which more than often broke down on the way, which was kind of a sign that we didn't need to go to school. But anyway, yeah, we'll skip all that. And around me 17 or something, I joined some karate or Kai Wondu sessions and took these classes. And to be honest, this is probably the most dangerous sport that I took up because people kept kicking me in the head no matter what I did, and I just couldn't stop them. But I did it for a couple of years and managed to survive. And then I got my first motorbike. In my early 20s, I realised that there was a Sabakra club training in a local pool. So yeah, I got on my bike and went across one weekend and joined them in the pool. And yeah, that took off this sport. Did a lot of snorkeling up and down the lengths of the pool. They really did work us out. So I became a proficient snorkeler first, before we started training on the bottles, and yeah, it took off from there. Did this for 5 or 6 years. It was around this time as well, maybe my mid-20s now, that I got me my first big bike. Probably the bike that I really loved. It was a Honda 554 4-into-1 exhaust. Yeah, I just loved it. But I was still doing snorkeling. Yeah, having fun doing that. And started doing quite a bit of running then with a few guys, and I was cycling to work quite a bit. The running I was doing was all road work at this stage, doing 10Ks, half marathons, and I did 4 or 5 full marathons, the Dublin one and a couple of others I can't remember, but yeah, it was all road running, so we were keeping busy. it was around me in my 20s sometime as well that triathlon started to come into Ireland, and this took me interest. So I started to investigate into this scene, and the only one I could find that I got an entry form for was the All Ireland Triathlon, which was held over in Mullaghmore in Sligo, in the west of Ireland. So I entered that, and I had about 2 weeks left before the event for training, which meant I basically didn't do much more training than I was doing anyway. So the Friday after work before the event on the Saturday, I threw my gear in the car and drove over to Sligo and did the All Ireland Triathlon. Why not? I still change my bikes, my motorbikes, so still doing that. And then I was with my brother. We joined a canoeing club nearby in Naas, and basically this was we used to go to Naas into the canal harbour in Naas, and we used to string nets across each end of the harbour. And whoever turned up that evening, we split it into two teams, threw a ball into the canal, and we played canoe polo. It was a great way to learn the canoe, because if the ball came anywhere near you, 4 or 5 lads came on top of you. So if you couldn't roll the canoe, you just ended up in the water. So you learn pretty quick. But we did end up canoeing in rivers. And we did the Liffey Descent, which is a big race from Lucan down to Dublin over, I don't know, something like 11 weirs with a portage by a dam. Did that 4 or 5 times. It was good, but then yeah, we moved on. Not long after this, Fungi turned up down in Dingle, County Kerry. Fungi was a dolphin that just turned up in the harbour, so myself and a friend threw our canoes on the boat, threw our canoes on the car one Friday evening after work, and drove down to Kerry to see Fungi. So it was 1998 when we heard that the Tour de France was coming to Dublin, and it so happened that the Saturday, the weekend before the actual Tour de France started, they were holding a cycle event where cyclists could actually cycle stage 1 of the Tour de France, which started in Dublin, went down the east coast down towards Wexford as far as Arklow, and then came back up north through the Wicklow Mountains, over over Glendalough Gap, through Blessington, and then back up to Dublin. It was around 120 miles, so I entered it. Why not? The only stipulation was that you had to wear a cycling helmet, which of course I didn't have back in them days. So I think I borrowed some kid's cycling helmet. As you see on the photographs, it really did suit me. Anyway, cracking on. Early 30s, I was cycling home from work one afternoon because I was on 3 shifts this stage, and going by this field where I seen a lad tinkering around in a microlight. So I stopped on my bike and was just watching him for a few minutes, as you do. He took me interest, so I just put the bike in the ditch, jumped over the ditch and walked across to him, and I got talking to him. Anyway, nice fella, and he offered to give me a spin on this microlight, but he didn't have a helmet with him that day, but he said he'd be round in a couple of days time, weather permitting. So anyway, a couple of days went by and there he was again. So I cycled in, met him in the field again, put my helmet on that he gave me, and he said jump up behind him. It wasn't really a seat he had, it was just a space between him and the engine. But anyway, we took off and I was up with him in this microlight for about 20 minutes. Really nice, but far too noisy. But it got me thinking, I'd like to try something in this line. So I looked around for a hang gliding club, which I found over in Bray, which is just south of Dublin, on the edge of the Wicklow Mountains. So I went there one weekend. I did the hang gliding for maybe 6 years, 5 or 6 years. I really it was probably the sport that I really enjoyed, kind of just getting up in the air and just staying up there once you got to a certain level. But it was so depending on the weather, it was frustrating. So I just threw it in because it was annoying me. So still got back into my motorbikes as well. But anyway, trying to keep this video short, I moved to England, to where we are now, North Yorkshire, and got a job. And one of the guys in this job where I started was doing some indoor wall climbing. So I went along to Newton Aycliffe one evening with him. And after a couple of weeks doing this, I met a few members of the SOC, the Swaledale Outdoor Club, and started climbing. Had some good friends that I still have now. But yeah, we got into the climbing, we got into hill walking, Munro bagging, and eventually fell running. I'll say a bit about that in a minute. Fell running. I used to think I was quite fit, you know, running, but I wasn't, I realised. Joining up these bloody hills, you couldn't run up them, or I couldn't. Coming down them, you couldn't stay on your feet. But anyway, I did fell running. Did a lot with John Smith. We run quite a bit together, and enjoyed it. But yeah, I met some nice people. Started doing mountain marathons. Anybody that doesn't know what mountain marathon is, it's a 2-day running event in the lakes, or if you do it in the Saunders, you do it in the lakes. If you do the Lamb, you do it in Scotland, just to make it more difficult. There's also the but basically it's a 2-day event where you're given a map on a Saturday morning. You run checkpoints throughout the day. You bring in your tent, sleeping bag, clothes, food. Between 2 people, you do it in pairs, and you camp somewhere on the Saturday night. Then Sunday morning you start all over again with a new route, bringing you back to where you started from the Saturday morning. It's hard work, but it's very enjoyable. But it got too busy, too popular for me. When I started at first, I think it was £35 for your 2 members. The last one I did was something like £80. It was getting expensive, so the fun was going out of it. Too many were doing it, so we cracked on. I met I was told about a club by a friend of the SOC called the Smelly Hellies, so I joined them. They're a group of older fell runners. I say old, they still run rings around me, they're still fit, but yeah, they just meet once a week when they can't at the moment. And we just go for a run somewhere up in the North York Moors, all off-road, but yeah, they're a nice bunch, so I'm running with them now still. But anyway, around this time as well, I started doing triathlons again, and started swimming again, slowly running. I'm still doing cycling, so I started triathlons, as you do. I'm just including here a few photographs which I came across from when I used to do the Munros up in Scotland, because the scenery is absolutely spectacular, both in summer or in winter. It does get quite dramatic, and you have to be ready for all sorts of weather. Anything can be thrown at you, but it's well worth it. I think I've done over 100, but there's 284 Munros to do, so whenever I want, there's plenty more to keep me busy. I'm up near my date now where I am now. I'm still doing the cycling, road cycling, mountain bike cycling and running. So I packed up my work about just over a year ago and started to wonder what I'm going to do now. So last year I bought myself a touring bike, but this is just before this coronavirus hit us all. And but I did manage to get out during the ease of lockdown last summer. Got out a couple of times. But that's my intention for the future. Get out on the bike and just do a bit of touring. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's brought back some good memories for me. But the main thing what I wanted was just to maybe try and inspire people that are not sure or unsure themselves. But if there's anything you want to do, you just have to go and do it, basically. And as the saying goes, what could possibly go wrong?